I'm going to say something as someone that has often experienced disappointment in the opposite gender. Not because they're evil, but because of certain habits and choices that they make. I am not going to be making this a short, and I imagine that this will lose me a lot of followers. And people will be angry because that's what happens when you defend your habit that comforts you and doesn't make you grow. But yeah, essentially, I've heard a lot of women on the internet, I guess, express their issues. I've heard a lot of men talk about how women aren't worth it anymore and they'd rather have their games and whatever. Not every man says that, but you know, enough. Obviously this subject is different to me having cancer and all of that. It's more of a, I guess, public announcement. But I think I worked out why a lot of the world is the way it is. Here's my beautiful cat, by the way. She's so gorgeous. Her name's Alita. She's the most magnificent little creature in the world. Aren't you? Hey. Anyway. But yeah, I came from a reel. There's this guy basically saying that men have stepped away from women because they are sick of the way women are behaving, or whatever it was, I can't remember. Anyway, and then the comments were basically a whole bunch of women saying that we're fine without men and there isn't such a thing as a women's loneliness epidemic, blah 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 blah. Now, I have come to develop my beliefs, and I think that whether it's by design, whether it's by accident, we're just not evolutionarily built, that's a word, excuse my chemo brain, oh my gosh, for the type of stimuli, put it that way, that we have in the world today. I truly think that the reason the world is so messed up is due to porn. All the men are going to be like, ah! You know, like a crack addict with crack. That's going to be their reaction. They're going to defend it that hard, like a literal drug addict. It's normal, the whole planet uses it. Okay. Whatever. Scroll on. No, I don't think that it's normal. Like, oh, things have occurred. Yeah. I'm not saying that ancient civilizations haven't been sexually and morally depraved as well. However, the fact that it is over 90% of males that watch porn statistically, and there's women that do as well, but yeah, if we're talking about just men here, it's like in the 90%. So it is very normalized. Do I think that makes it normal? No. But it is normalized, right? And every man I've ever met has had this habit, right? And then you throw in video gaming as well. And then that becomes further issues, and people be like, you know, about that as well, because it's also digital crack if you have an addictive personality. I'm not saying every gamer ever is like that, I'm not saying that, but there's a lot that are. Now, I could go into what I think my reasons are for why society has become so okay with it and whatnot. I think a lot of it is psychosis. I think the fact that we're more or less locked in little apartments. we're in small patches of territory we don't really own, so we're often kept in a bit of a state of fight or flight because we can never really settle down. That's sort of for the rich to have such a regulated nervous system. Unfortunately, it's not for everyone, because the way things are set up, at least in my country, there is a massive rental crisis. People are being moved on quite regularly or having to pay extreme amounts of rent. So I think there are these external life pressures. Cost of living is harder. So for a man that wants to protect and provide, things can be more difficult. I think, because I used to just genuinely think, what the hell is going on with a lot of men in society? But honestly, like, men and women need to stop being pitted against each other, and we need to work together, because that's the only way to a more stable society, is if we stop trying to destroy each other. And that brings me back to my point about porn. When society accepts this on the regular, that means that the fundamental way a male works, man I should say, works, is that you're going to want to impress, protect, provide, that sort of thing. If you're a heterosexual male for a female, generally, you know. Now imagine that you've got a silverback gorilla and some lady gorilla wants him. Imagine for a moment that that gorilla is just standing there having some good old hymn time to a cave painting, and it's like, nah, sorry, I don't want to pass on my bloodline, I don't want to protect you girls, I don't want to provide food, I don't want to take you to the best feeding ground because I've just got this cave painting right here. You know? Doesn't really work with evolution to get that much dopamine, that much stimuli for doing absolutely nothing. Because biologically, men have wanted to, like, chase it, protect it, nourish it, provide it, you know, that sort of things. Don't know if that's making sense. I've got serious chemo brain here, so, like, I'm not as, like, you know, switched on as it would be. But yeah, essentially, I think society has become in such a state of zoochosis, and that makes it easier for certain habits to be developed. And then not just that, like, I think even without the fact that there's external pressures, like, it is just so accessible. Like, who doesn't have a mobile phone? Who doesn't have a laptop? Like, I would not be surprised if basically every single man on earth has a porn issue. And yes, I'm calling it a porn issue because no, it's not natural. You can't say that us back in the caveman days were naturally gonna just be watching digital stuff every day. Like, if you look up brain scans of people that watch porn and have an issue, which I think anyone that's really watching it regularly does, because I don't think it's natural, but anyway. And yes, I know I'll deeply offend people that have this issue. I'm sorry, but, you know, it is what it is. You can scroll on. Yeah, but people that have this issue are not really able to get stimuli from healthy, normal avenues. So not only is it rewarding men when they don't deserve it, it's also frying their brain and making their dopamine receptors flooded on the regular, like doing drugs, to the point where they need more and more intense stimuli to actually feel something. And so when you do have the opportunity to have an intimate relationship with a real life woman, it doesn't feel as good, or you're going to sexually reject her, or you're going to carry a lot of shame because you're watching some really unhinged crap on the internet, you know? And putting down the phone feels impossible. Not only that, then you have gaming, which is basically channeling And I know women game as well, but yeah, it's basically channeling your, how did I put it? Like if you were a warrior in a past life, not past life, sorry, in a past era, you might be very, like, men would go to war, or men are competitive, right? They compete with each other, they'd have all that. But now we sit down and twiddle our thumbs, and that gives us all the dopamine that you'd normally get by having to train and having to get fit and having to prove yourself, right? And then not only that, you have a lot of social media content, which is women saying, oh, screw all men, and then it's men saying screw all women, and yet society's making it so hard for them to intimately connect with each other. So yeah, if you're a woman and you're wondering why you can't catch your man's eye, or why he's constantly sexually rejecting you, or he's not interested in you, or he's depressed all the time, or he has no motivation, it's probably because he's absolutely fried his brain. And it might be the same for a woman. I don't know. I haven't actually met a porn addicted woman, but I'm sure they're out there. But yeah, like, unhealthy amounts of dopamine is unhealthy amounts of dopamine. And look, I don't even know if I should put this up on my channel, honestly. It's just something I feel kind of sad about, because, I can see the era I'm living in. I can see the era I'm raising my daughter in. And quite honestly, like, it's a society I would, for the most part, rather remove myself from. Like, most people, most men that I meet are gonna be watching some unhinged crap on the internet that's some specific whatever, and then they train themselves to that's all they can respond to, and then it's just got to get worse and worse and worse and worse for them to actually feel anything. So yeah, if you're a woman struggling in relationships, or a man struggling in relationships, it can go both ways. Society is not set up to encourage healthy, emotionally regulated, emotionally intimate, and sexually intimate relationships. It's just not. And then, anyway, said enough, but yeah, basically, if you're struggling and you're like, why is this person the way they are, it's probably, well, it could be because they have fried their brain into oblivion, and now they feel like they can't stop. But yeah, to further touch on this video, this man was saying that, a lot of the friends he knows are just kind of like at home, and they don't like bother with women anymore, and they're not impressed with like women anymore. And it's like, yeah, but that's because you're at home jerking off to the exact sort of women that you would judge in a conversation. But the only reason that those women exist is because there's such a demand for you, from you, and from men like you all around the world. So it's kind of this vicious cycle, this vicious loop that feeds itself, But yeah, I study counselling. I'm going to be a therapist in a year if I live, which looks like I'm going to, so yay. But yeah, you can look up brain scans. You can look up the effects of pornography on the male brain. And you might think you're doing a harmless habit, but it is harming you. You are also a victim of this. You are powerless to this. You give your power and your life force away. So, do with that information what you will, but it's very hard for men to quit. Almost impossible. Like, literally the same as trying to quit drugs. And yeah, basically it's it's like with drugs. Like, if you take an actual, like, physical drug, it fries you to the point where, okay, you flood your brain with dopamine, but the more you do it, the more numb you become to it physically in your brain, in your neuron receptors. And so then you need stronger and stronger doses. And it's exactly the same with pornography. And yeah, that's why we've got the era that we do. I don't know if I should post this, but I'm going to.